Navigating Gatekeepers to Reach B2B Leads, a 2025 guide for modern sales teams. The 2025 Gatekeeper reality for outbound teams. In 2025, reaching B2B leads isn't just about dialing more. It's about getting through an ecosystem of human and digital gatekeepers that decide what deserves attention. Receptionists, executive assistants, operations coordinators, spam filters, and even internal stakeholders can all stop your message before it ever reaches a decision maker. That's why the best outbound teams treat access as a process, not a personality contest. The phone is still one of the fastest channels to create real conversations when the problem is complex and the stakes are high. Recent reporting shows 60% of decision makers prefer calls over email for high-value solutions, and 69% of buyers have accepted a call from an unfamiliar salesperson in the last year. Those numbers are exactly why top cold calling services haven't backed off the channel. They've modernized how they earn the right to be connected. At SalesHive, we see the same pattern across industries. The teams that win are the ones that build repeatable systems for navigating gatekeepers. That includes better data, tighter messaging, a calm call structure, and multi-touch sequences that make you look credible when someone screens you. Whether you're building an in-house cold calling team or working with an outsourced sales team, the playbook needs to be intentional. Why gatekeepers matter more as buying committees grow. Gatekeepers have more power because buying groups are bigger and more cross-functional than most sales teams plan for. Research cited in the market shows the average B2B buying group now includes around 10 to 11 stakeholders, and typical buying groups for complex solutions include 6 to 10 decision makers. The practical impact is simple. There are more people who can delay, veto, or reroute your outreach, and more people whose job is to reduce noise for leadership. At the same time, digital-first buying hasn't reduced gatekeeping, it has multiplied it. Studies summarized across the industry show 70 to 80% of B2B buyers prefer remote or digital self-service interactions, which shifts more early-stage evaluation into inboxes, portals, and internal chats. That environment is convenient for buyers, but it also means you're competing with automation, procurement friction, security reviews, and tools designed to filter you out. This is why just send more emails or increase dials stops working quickly, and why sales outsourcing partners and modern SDR agencies now coach gatekeeper-specific skills. When you treat gatekeepers as strategic allies, people protecting time, risk, and priorities, you start getting routed through instead of screened out. The goal isn't to defeat them, it's to make the next step feel safe and useful. Choose the right route, bypass or partner. Strong outbound programs use two plays in parallel: bypass when you can and partner when you must. If you have verified direct dials or mobiles, you can often avoid the switchboard entirely and reach the right stakeholder faster. When you're targeting senior leaders with protected calendars, partnering with an EA or front desk contact is often the most reliable path because they control access by design. That gap is why list quality is one of the highest ROI levers in a B2B cold calling motion. When we build campaigns as a B2B sales agency, we prioritize verified direct dials first, then expand coverage to main lines as a secondary layer. It's not about avoiding gatekeepers forever. It's about not forcing every conversation through the hardest route. The bigger strategic shift is multi-threading. Don't let one person or one path control the account. When buying groups average 10 to 11 stakeholders, you should expect multiple valid entry points and multiple mini gatekeepers inside the org. A modern outbound sales agency mindset is to orchestrate access across the whole committee, not to obsess over a single title. A repeatable gatekeeper call framework that doesn't sound scripted. Gatekeeper calls fail for predictable reasons. Reps ramble, sound uncertain, or make the gatekeeper do work without offering a clear reason why. The fix is a simple framework you can train, QA, and scale across a cold calling agency or internal SDR org. Greeting, context in one sentence, value in one sentence, and a clear ask. Done well, it feels professional and calm, not robotic, because the structure reduces verbal clutter. Your context should answer why you're calling without pitching. For example, I'm calling because we're working with operations teams on reducing manual reporting time. Then stop. Your value should be specific enough to be credible, but short enough to be repeatable. And your ask should be easy for the gatekeeper to act on. Transfer, best time, correct owner, or whether the contact is the right person. The most important skill is making the gatekeeper look competent internally. Instead of pushing past them, we recommend positioning them as the guide. Can you point me to who owns this? Or what's the best way to route something relevant? That language is especially effective for B2B cold calling services selling into operations, finance, and IT, where gatekeepers are often measured on protecting priorities and reducing risk. Gatekeepers don't block good opportunities, they block unclear ones. Build sequences that gatekeepers want to pass through. In 2025, single-touch outreach is a morale killer because it's not how buyers behave anymore. The data behind modern SDR motions shows many prospects require repeated attempts, and cold calling continues to work best as a series rather than a one-off. That aligns with findings that 82% of buyers say they've agreed to meetings after a series of cold calls, meaning persistence plus relevance is the real unlock, not a magic opener. We recommend designing one coordinated sequence across phone, email, and LinkedIn, so every touch makes the next touch easier. A strong cold email agency approach supports the phone motion by making your name and company look legitimate when someone screens you, while calls create the fastest path to clarity when the message lands. When a gatekeeper hears your name and can quickly find a professional footprint, your pass-through rate improves, even if the gatekeeper never admits it. This is also where positioning matters. Gatekeepers route value, not enthusiasm. If your message sounds like, "Can I get 15 minutes?" you'll get filtered. If it sounds like, "Here's what we're seeing in companies like yours, and here's who typically owns it," you'll get guidance. That's the difference between hoping for a transfer and earning help from the person controlling access. Common mistakes that get you screened out and how to fix them. The fastest way to fail with gatekeepers is to treat them like obstacles. When reps try to sneak through, use vague titles, or act irritated, they trigger the exact behavior gatekeepers are paid to execute. Protect the calendar. A more reliable approach is to be transparent, concise, and respectful, because professionalism is the signal they use to decide whether you're worth routing. Another common mistake is relying on volume while ignoring data quality. If your team is mostly dialing switchboards, you're voluntarily choosing the lowest connect route. Benchmarks show 3 to 5% connect rates through switchboards versus 8 to 15% on direct dials. Whether you hire SDRs internally or work with SDR agencies, your connect rate ceiling is heavily set by the list you give them. Finally, many teams fail by not preparing for the secondary gatekeepers inside the buying group: finance, security, IT, and ops leaders who can stall a deal without ever answering the main line. With buying groups commonly at 6 to 10 decision makers, your outreach should anticipate multiple evaluators and tailor language to what each role protects. That's how an outbound motion stays alive after the first conversation instead of dying in internal review. Measure and coach gatekeeper performance like a real funnel. If you don't measure gatekeepers, you can't improve them, and most teams don't. Instead of only tracking dials and meetings, add gatekeeper-specific KPIs. How often calls reach a gatekeeper, how often they result in a transfer or correct owner, and how often they lead to a callback or scheduled slot. Once you can see pass-through rates by persona and account segment, coaching becomes precise instead of motivational. This is also where CRM discipline matters more than teams expect. Research aggregated in the market suggests CRM adoption can increase conversion rates by up to 300%, largely because it forces consistency in follow-up and makes outcomes visible. For gatekeeper navigation, the CRM is where you capture who screened you, what they said, what worked, and what sequence step comes next, so every rep doesn't relearn the same lesson the hard way. At SalesHive, we run weekly call reviews that focus specifically on gatekeeper interactions, not just best calls with decision makers. That's where tone, pacing, and clarity get built, and where we turn real moments into training assets for new cold callers. If you're evaluating sales outsourcing or a sales development agency partner, ask how they coach gatekeeper calls, not just how many dials they promise. What to do next? Operationalize gatekeeper navigation for 2026. The next step is to treat gatekeepers as part of your ICP, not as an exception. Document the common gatekeeper roles in your target accounts. Define what they care about, time, risk, routing accuracy, and ensure your messaging respects those incentives. When you do that, your team stops improvising and starts executing a consistent play that works across accounts. Then invest where the math is undeniable: data and sequence design. If direct dials deliver 8 to 15% connect rates, while switchboards deliver 3 to 5%, you don't need more motivation. You need a better pipeline of verified numbers and a cadence that combines calls, email, and LinkedIn touches. This is where strong list-building services, a disciplined sales engagement process, and well-run B2B cold calling services materially change outcomes. Finally, decide whether you're building or borrowing the system. Many teams get value from an outsourced sales team because it brings proven process, coaching, and execution without a long ramp, while others prefer to build internally and use a partner for data and strategy. Either way, the goal is the same: a repeatable outbound engine that earns access, protects SDR morale, and consistently turns first contact into qualified meetings.